Application for tax deregistration. This section outlines the rules, procedures, and conditions under which a tax registrant in the UAE can formally apply to the Federal Tax Authority, FTA, to deregister from VAT obligations. 1. Eligibility to apply for tax deregistration. Key condition for eligibility. A tax registrant is eligible to apply for deregistration if the value of the taxable supplies made by the registrant during the last 12 consecutive months is below the mandatory registration threshold. Current threshold for mandatory registration. The mandatory registration threshold is set at AED 375,000 of taxable supplies. What this means for the registrant. If the business's total taxable turnover drops below AED 375,000 for a full year, it may no longer be required to remain VAT registered. In this case, the business can approach the FTA and formally request deregistration. This applies even if the business still makes some taxable supplies. The key trigger is falling below the mandatory threshold. Example scenario. A trading company that was registered for VAT experiences a decline in sales. Over the past 12 months, it only made taxable supplies worth AED 300,000. Since this is below AED 375,000, the company can apply to deregister. 2. Requirement to submit an application. Active obligation to apply. The registrant must proactively submit a formal application to the FTA to initiate the deregistration process. No automatic deregistration. Even if the business falls below the registration threshold, deregistration is not automatic. The business will remain registered and subject to VAT compliance obligations until the FTA receives and processes the deregistration request. The business must continue filing VAT returns and complying with VAT law until deregistration is formally approved. Key message. Falling below the threshold does not automatically trigger deregistration action from the business is required. 3. Scope of review by the authority. What the FTA will do after receiving the application. The FTA will review the deregistration application to confirm that the business qualifies for deregistration. Review process. The FTA may request supporting documentation to validate the claim that taxable supplies have fallen below the threshold. These documents could include financial statements, sales reports, VAT returns, other records proving the reduced turnover. Importance of accurate records. The registrant must ensure that all financial records are up to date, accurate, and aligned with VAT returns already filed with the FTA. Any discrepancy could delay or complicate the deregistration process. Example. If the business declares its turnover was AED 300,000, but previously filed VAT returns show supplies of AED 400,000, the FTA will request clarification or reject the application. 4. Impact on tax obligations after applying for deregistration. Applying does not cancel past responsibilities. Submitting a deregistration application does not immediately release the business from all VAT obligations. Ongoing obligations until approval. The registrant must continue filing VAT returns for periods until the deregistration is approved. Pay any outstanding tax, penalties, or administrative fines incurred before deregistration. Retain VAT records for the period specified under UAEVAT law, currently 5 years. Important reminder. The business cannot simply stop filing returns or stop charging VAT upon application. It must wait for FTA confirmation that deregistration is approved. Example. A business applies for deregistration on 1st March. The FTA approves deregistration effective from 1st April. The business must file and settle VAT for the March tax period. 5. Importance of timing and compliance. Prompt action expected. Registrants who qualify for deregistration are expected to apply promptly. Delays could result in continued obligation to file unnecessary VAT returns. Potential penalties for non-compliance. Administrative burdens for both the business and the FTA. Compliance risk of late applications. If a business waits too long after becoming eligible for deregistration, the FTA could interpret this as a compliance failure, potentially exposing the business to fines. Additional scrutiny during future audits. Difficulties in demonstrating proper compliance culture. For more details, contact us.